Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gannon, alongside my partner, Jack McNicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. Now the chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com. Follow us on Instagram at JustSayingNoGWJS for article and video updates. And don't forget us in your ears on Spotify at Just Saying Football on the go when you're moving. We're here. It's been a big week. The trade deadline happened. Both of our teams are coming off of some wins and some losses. How are you feeling going into Week 10?
Yeah, man. Giants couldn't get it done at home. Vikings definitely got it done. We'll get into both those teams this week. But, I mean, there are some teams that, looked at this week and just realized it's time to make some moves. And moves were made, Sean.
Yeah, moves were made indeed. Let's kick it right off. Raiders traded Jacoby Myers to the Jaguars in exchange for a 2026 4th and 6th round pick, which is great for them. And then the biggest news of the day came from the Jets. So they first traded Sauce Gardner to the Colts in exchange for 2 first-round picks and Adonai Mitchell. Then, later on in the day, just a few hours later, they traded Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys in exchange for Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle, a 2026 second-round pick, and a 2027 first-round pick. The Jets now have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts, 2 in 2026 and 3 in 2027, which is crazy. Let's see if their 21st rebuild in our lifetime is fulfilled. In some lesser exciting news, the Browns traded Joe Tyrone and the 7th round pick to the Bears in exchange for a 6th, and then the Saints traded Rashid Shaheed to the Seahawks in exchange for a 2026 4th and 5th round pick. That was the best one of the day in our opinion. That was the ones that we were really favored on. We love what the Seahawks are cooking up over there in the NFC West. They're building for the future. Before we get into these games, we've got some teams on a bye. Cincinnati Bengals, Dallas Cowboys, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Tennessee Titans. Let's get into our Thursday night football. We have the Las Vegas Raiders making their way to Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos favor this by -9.5 with an over-under here of 48.5. Now, Brock Bowers is back. That was obvious. He was the lifeblood of the team. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, dude. Looked great last week. Got the hat trick. But I don't know if it'll be enough this week with the way Denver's playing. They're 7-2. We thought they were going to be good this season, but not that good. And, now I love Bowers in this matchup, but I don't love the whole Raiders team. Outside of Trey Tucker, who I think is going to get love now that Jacoby's gone. But I just love Bo Nix and Troy Franklin in this matchup. Evan Ingram could get involved. I definitely see RJ Harvey scoring. And I'm taking, Denver at home in prime time right now. They're 7-2. Hard not to take them.
Yep, I got to agree with you on that. When you trade away your wide receiver one, you're clearly doing a rebuild. Conversation about whether or not Pete Carroll and Geno Smith should be in town. You signed Geno Smith to that big 2-year, $75 million deal in the offseason. Here you are with 2 wins to your name. It's not looking great. I think this is going to be a tough matchup. The only thing I want to see from the Broncos in this game is a faster start. They seem to always get off to these slow starts and put it together. That's something you can't do if you want to hold on to that AFC West. You have the Chiefs in there. They can always pop off, and we do have some tough NFC teams as well. I'm locking in the Broncos for this one. I'd be shocked if they don't win. All right, let's keep this moving along. We have some Sunday games, 9:30 in the morning. Atlanta Falcons taking on the Indianapolis Colts. This is going to be happening in Berlin, Germany. Colts are favored by -6.5 with an over-under here of 48.5. Colts just took their 2nd loss of the season, and Daniel Jones looked like the New York Giant that you and I were so familiar with during his time here. What are your thoughts going into this game? Is this a get-right game for them? We saw Jonathan Taylor under 50 rushing yards.
Yeah, man, and he is still leading the league in rushing yards even after a bad performance. Just shows to go, I think him and Daniel Jones were going to be on like a little revenge this week. I love the running back matchup in this. Bijan and Taylor, they're both going to try to compete and try to see who gets the most amount of yards. But Daniel Jones, man, he's going to Germany right now, knowing that he is the leader in passing yards as of right now in the league for this season. So, Danny's got to be feeling good about something. And I don't love Atlanta. They've been too up and down for me this year. But Drake London, man, 3 touchdowns last week.
I know, that was impressive, especially that one-handed one. I had him in a league. I was like, you are carrying my team right now. Thank you, Drake London. And to that measure, I am going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. I know that the Colts just got Sauce Gardner. He is going to be in for this one. He cleared concussion protocol. He's traveling with the team in Germany. Bear in mind, he just got traded on Tuesday, everybody, which is crazy. I thought for sure he might be out this week and then return, after they get back from Germany, because you got to learn a new system, all this. But when you're a dog, you're a dog. Yeah. I do think it's going to be the Falcons. I think they have a really great defense. I think there was something about the Colts team last week that got exposed that maybe that's the blueprint for other teams to sort of copy and paste and sort of get at them. We saw something similar with the Vikings last week against the Lions, sort of showing a weakness in a team. Maybe that's a way to exploit them. So I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think this is a surprise game. There's going to be some travel. It's going to be a little bit different. Moving this right along, we have the Cleveland Browns making their way to New York to take on the Jets. Cleveland's favored in this by -2.5, then over under here of 37.5. Jets are coming off the bye. They're coming off of a fire sale in regards to their team. Don't forget, they also traded Michael Carter just last week to the Philadelphia Eagles, so their secondary is all brand new at the moment. I'm locking in the Browns. I'm just going to trust their defense a little bit more than anything else. They've been absolutely electric this year, and we've seen Justin Fields struggle pretty consistently this season unless he's able to run the ball well.
Yeah, man, and it may be a good matchup for him, but you still got Myles Garrett on the other side. Quinshon Judkins was questionable this week. I do believe he should, play, and if he does, I feel really confident. You got to think Breece Hall is just thinking about the rest of the season as an audition for his free agency next year. Definitely by those tweets, don't think he'll be on the Jets. I'm kind of shocked they traded the defensive players over the offensive players, but I don't think that benefits them in this matchup at all. I'm taking Cleveland on the road.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. Let's keep this moving along. So we have the Buffalo Bills making their way to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Buffalo's favoring this by -9.5 with an over-under here of 50.5. Now, one of the trades also that we didn't get to talk about was Jalen Phillips got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles as well in exchange for a third-round pick. This is helping out their the Eagles, but man, Miami, I thought more was going to happen. I thought Waddle would be on the move. I thought Bradley Chubb would be on the move. I honestly thought Minka Fitzpatrick was going to be on the move again, and none of it happened. What are your thoughts going to this one? Any hope for the Dolphins? I'm assuming we're both going to lock in the Bills.
Yeah, I'm locking in the Bills as well. I like the 9.5 on this one. You said it a couple weeks ago, Sean. It's hard to trust Miami. If you think these guys are going to be happy to go to work on Monday right now, they're not with this losing record. Two teams in the division with winning records, and they could have a division loss here at home. No hope. No hope. I love what the Bills are doing. James Cook is second right now, has 735 rushing yards. He has 867, and nobody else has over 735 on the year except for him and JT. I think this is a huge James Cook game, and obviously Josh Allen, he had a big Dalton Kincaid game last week. I expect that this week as well.
Yep, I like it. I think you can also maybe even throw in a Josh Allen anytime touchdown for this one.
I like that.
All right, moving this right along, we have the Baltimore Ravens making their way to Minnesota to take on my Vikings. Baltimore's favoring this one -4.5 with an over-under here of 48.5. Vikings got the big win last week. Baltimore has Lamar Jackson back. Any hope for my Vikings in this one?
I mean, I would hope if they can build off that momentum last week. I am going to take the Ravens in this one. I think this could be a good matchup for Derrick Henry, but I would love to see what Justin Jefferson does against this defense, man. He's still top 5 in yards no matter what quarterback they've had him playing with this year. So you got to shout out to him. Aaron Jones looked a little bit back last week, got some love. So I think that the Vikings have the ability to spread the ball around, and if they can do that with this Baltimore defense, you got Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton. We talk about those guys every week. So not going to be an easy way to win, but there's definitely a path for them to do it. I am going to take the Ravens, though, just because I'm a little more confident in Lamar than I am against McCarthy, and it may come down to a close game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I was watching McCarthy last week, and I will say there were some excellent throws that he made. The touchdown to Justin Jefferson was perfectly placed. The third down throw to Jalen Naylor was also perfectly placed. Those are some things that you hope they build on and are able to work on. I am going to go with Baltimore, and the reason why is Ravens look like a playoff team. They had a slow start and a slow game against the Dolphins, but that was Lamar Jackson's first game back from a hamstring injury. And the Vikings have a good defense. 5 sacks last week, 16 pressures against Jared Goff. But you know what Jared Goff can't do? The way that Lamar Jackson can do is escape the pocket and run around.
Yeah.
And that's something that you just can't really equate for. And you can practice all you want. You can work on your containment all you want. But Lamar Jackson always has a way. Ultimately, if push comes to shove, exactly like you said, if we had to pick a quarterback, game on the line right now, it's Lamar Jackson, no questions asked.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lock in the Ravens. But I will say, I think you can take the spread on this one. I think the Vikings will keep this close. It's going to be obviously indoors, so bear in mind for all the kickers out there. Moving this right along, we have the New York Giants making their way to Chicago to take on the Bears. Bears favored this one by -3.5 with an over-under here of 48.5. Giants couldn't get the win at home, but Jackson Dart is clearly him and is clearly giving this team some sort of vibe.
Yeah, dude, and he's getting everybody involved. Theo Johnson, Wan'Dale Robinson. I wish Tyrone Tracy would kind of show us what he did last year to kind of, give us that confidence we were going to have him coming into the season. But obviously he's kind of lost a little of that, losing his job to Scadaboo, and now he's got his job back. So I think it's on the Giants to just try to continue to use everybody they can. And on the other side of the ball, I am going to take the Bears this week. But it's just because what we saw last week was the evolution of this Ben Johnson offense run by Caleb Williams, and I know it was the Bengals, and we know it was, but the fact is he got all these guys involved, and they have the pieces right now to spread the ball out, command the clock right now with their run game through Mononga, and I'm gonna take the Bears, unfortunately.
Yeah, Colston Loveland finally get involved. That was huge. That's exactly what we were waiting for. I mean, especially when he gets drafted before Tyler Warren, and Tyler Warren's looking like potential offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Except Emeka Ibuka should probably win that.
True.
But things just to shout out the Giants. Brian Burns leading the NFL, tied with Myles Garrett for sacks at 11. Jackson Dart, only QB ever with a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown in his first 4 starts. All that being said, I do agree with you with the Bears. I think they're finding their stride at the right time. We're seeing the full scope of Ben Johnson's offense, and they didn't even have Rome Odunze do anything.
They had Caleb with 2 catches last week. So, that's not Ben Johnson. I don't know what it is.
So there's a lot more for this Bears offense, I think, to get excited about, and for this Bears team to get excited about. Just about that continuous growth with Caleb Williams, and I think that's a game where you can point to and say, man, it's going in the right direction. Yeah. Moving this right along into one of the better games of the week, we have the New England Patriots making their way to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored this one -2.5 with an over-under here of 48.5. Now, Drake May is in the MVP conversation, but if you look at who they've beaten, they have not beaten a team with a winning record. Now they face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is there a chance for them to finally sort of change that script a little bit, or are they going to take a loss here?
Yeah, man. I mean, we were talking about Baker MVP, and I just had to look it up because you mentioned it, but Drake May right now is second in MVP. So it's pretty impressive what he's doing, man. He's been on this win streak. Bad teams or not, these are NFL teams. This kid is only in his second year. Stephon Diggs is looking good. Big shout out to Pop Douglas last week, but Tampa, man, we've been riding them all season. This may be the one game I pick against them. I'm going to take New England on the road, interconference on the road matchups. They're always weird. I hate me a 2.5, so I'm taking the dog in New England this week. I think their defense is just rowdy enough to kind of rattle Baker just for this week.
Yeah, I got to go opposite of you. I think last week with the Falcons, we saw what Raheem Morris was able to do and was able to scheme up. They were just an extra point and a field goal away from tying that game that were both missed, right? And they had for the Falcons. So and Drake May did not look as comfortable all the time in the pocket, and I think this is a chance for Todd Bowles and this defense to really sort of step up and make them uncomfortable. On the flip, though, to your point, I will say Chris Godwin has not practiced all week, and neither has Bucky Irvin. So a lot of other players now need to step up for this Buccaneers team that have already had to. Let's see if that can continue after the bye. Now they've gotten some rest. Do they still have that momentum, or are the injuries now going to sort of pile in now that you've gotten that 1 week's rest right in the middle of the season? So something to keep in mind. Let's keep this moving along because we have the New Orleans Saints making their way to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Panthers are this one by -5.5 with an over-under here of 40.5. Now, Panthers got a huge win in Lambeau Field, all right? And the Saints, they made a switch from Spencer Rattler to Tyler Slough, and I just don't understand why they did that. I'm going to lock in the Panthers with this one. They just look much better. Rico Dowd continues to impress. Bryce Young looks way better than Andy Dalton for this team. I want to see the passing get a little bit better and a little bit more consistent. But I do think that Dave Canales has something slightly cooking with this team. And that defense is a little under the radar right now.
Yeah, dude. And I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a stat yesterday that just looked fake, but they said that Rico Dowell is on pace if he played all 18 games at 3,500 yards on a season, which would be like
God.
double the record of all time. I mean, this
like
kid
3 200-yard games. That's why.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, what else are you supposed to do with that? And I mean, you said it, they got the win last week as dogs. Now they have an actually good matchup for themselves here. Saints 0-4 on the road. You got Tyler Slough, like you said, only starting his second game. Threw his first touchdown pass to Juwan Johnson, who he played with 6 years ago in college when Juwan Johnson was in college, since he is a 6-year pro. So it just shows you how long Tyler was in college. But now he's in the NFL, and he's got to play this Panthers defense with Derek Brown, who's looking fantastic. You got Chris Olave stuck there now. He's going to get fed, but he's up against J.C. Horn. I don't like the matchup for him this week, so I'm taking Carolina all day.
All right, I like it. Couldn't agree with you more. From the NFC South to the AFC South, Jacksonville Jaguars make their way to Houston, take on the Texans. Texans favor this by -1.5, then over-under here of 37.5. Now, C.J. Stroud will not be in this game as he is in the concussion protocol, so Davis Mills gets the start. What are your thoughts going into this one? Bear in mind, Travis Hunter is also on the IR.
Yeah, but Jacoby Myers now slides into that spot, and I got to feel way more confident about him than I do about Travis Hunter, only a couple games into his career. We've seen what Jacoby Myers can do when he gets a lot of targets, and obviously, the Raiders just wasn't a fit for him. I'm looking at Jacksonville right now. They need to contain and maintain their winning record. They have an easy matchup against a division opponent. These games get ugly. We always talk about certain divisions. They always get ugly and they always get weird. Jacksonville is a dog here in a low-scoring game. Sounds like the right move to me.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm going to also go with Jacksonville. Their team is fully healthy. They bring in Jacoby Myers. I think that's really just helped the growth of Brian Thomas Jr. more than anything. I'm not worried about BTJ's struggles this year. I think a lot of second-year players, we see this happen. I think we've gotten very used and adjusted to, and I say this all the time, the guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase who just sort of come in and they're just so consistent each and every year, and they're able to do it from year one. Not every wide receiver does that. Some wide receivers go off their first year, then they have a down second year, and then by the third year, they're right back to that rookie season, and then they're consistent again. So I'm not worried about him. He's learning a new system. He's clearly not the main focal point. They're trying to dish the ball out all over the place. There are some drop concerns. Yeah. Those are all things he can work on. I'm going to go with Jacksonville. They should beat a beat-up Texans team. But this Texans team is at home. They have a good defense. Maybe that's like your.
I would have taken Houston easy if I knew Stroud was gonna play, but now that I know he's not, I can see this definitely. Jacksonville is just chomping at the bit right now.
Right, you gotta love that. All right, let's keep this moving. So we have another NFC showdown when the Arizona Cardinals make their way to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seahawks favor this by -6.5 and over under here of 45.5. Sam Darnold, 16 for 16, 4 touchdowns in the first half. And the Cardinals are sticking with Jacoby Brissett, at least as of now, as Kyler Murray is also on the IR for the next 4 games. What are your thoughts going into this one? The Cardinals have been playing better with Brissett at the helm.
They have, and they got that win. We didn't really expect it. All the stats said they were going to win. They just came in kind of as dogs with a backup quarterback and beat Dak Prescott in primetime. Pretty crazy stuff. When you look at the Cardinals, they just kind of find a way every year to not be top 5 or top 10. They always try to find a way, but they won't make it because their division is so hard. JSN continues to just go off. Torrey Horton continues to just grow. 2 touchdowns last week. I kind of love Seattle on everything that they're doing this year. And like you said, Sam Darnold, no incompletions by the time you have your 4th touchdown is just wild. That is something that is just not something you'd expect of him, but of anybody. It's impossibly hard to do. So they're cooking right now, Seattle, and they're dangerous, man. I don't like this 6.5, but I do like the over/under 45.5. I think this will be a high-scoring game, and 3-game win streak for Seattle. They got to be feeling good.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the Seahawks take this one. I think this might be a slightly better game than people expect, and maybe the Cardinals covered the spread. But I do think that the Seahawks ultimately take home the win. Their defense right now just looks great. Their offense looks great. I think when you look at the NFC, there's 4 teams. It's in no particular order. It's the Seahawks. It's the Lions. it's the Eagles, and it's the Rams. Like, those are probably the four, and I think you can comfortably now put the Seahawks in that conversation. And then you have some fringe teams. Like, the 49ers are still right there.
Packers are always up there, too, unless they're playing a bad team.
Yep, so they play to their team, that's for sure. And speaking of 49ers, we have another NFC West showdown when the Los Angeles Rams make their way to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. The Rams are favored this by -3.5 with an over-under here of 45.5. Now, Brock Purdy's still not going to be back for this one, so it is going to be the Mac Jones show, but they're playing well under him despite not having their starting quarterback.
I know that's literally just Kyle Shanahan for you, man. I mean, you're looking at this, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. This has been kind of the premier NFC West matchup for the last couple of years, and it's because they're great coaches, and they've both been dealing with their fair share of injuries. 49ers just more than anybody else. I feel like outside of the Giants maybe, but I mean, right now we love the Rams. I mean, they're 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. Like you said, they're a top 4 team in the NFC. We've been saying it all season. We think that Matthew Stafford, already won a Super Bowl. He's capable of beating those teams on the road. He would love to beat the Lions again in the playoffs. But Stafford, it's a big season right now. If Puka is a little banged up, I'm expecting a huge game out of Devontae Adams, California guy, and then. I think it's just going to be a great game for Stafford. But we got to start talking more about Kyren Williams too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think right now Stafford, got to be in that MVP conversation as well. Just looks absolutely incredible, just dishing out the ball left and right with ease. It's been no problem for him whatsoever. Been really impressed by everything he does. Just having a great season and picking up with Devontae Adams at the right time. I'm locking in the Rams. They're fully healthy. I think that's going to be one of those games where it shows. I do think this game is going to be close. It's an NFC West. They're always good. This game always, I feel like, go to the wire. Very high potential for that as well. So I'm not going to count either one of these teams out per se, but I do like the Rams. I think that health is just in their favor. Let's keep this moving along. We have the Detroit Lions making their way to Washington to take on the Commanders. Lions favored by -9.5 with an over-under here of 48.5. The Commanders, the big news, Jaden Daniels, I think he's going to be out for the remainder of the season based on that dislocated elbow. It was his non-throwing elbow, but you just look at that team. They've just been dealing with injuries nonstop. I'm locking in the Lions. I'm not worried about what the Detroit team can do. I think, that was a divisional game last week, and that was tough, and the Vikings just came out and played, and that's what happens sometimes with those ones. But I think this is a get-right game from Detroit. They get to play Marcus Mariota instead of Jaden Daniels. I think that their Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery revenge game after last week, just getting bottled up, is very high possible. And we saw Seattle was doing whatever they wanted to this Washington team. That's what the Lions can do. They have this ability to just run the ball and operate the play action, do a little motion. Sam Laporta, we saw 66 yards in the opening drive against the Vikings for a touchdown. Like, this is what this Lions team can do.
True.
I think they're going to show that for 4 quarters this week against Washington.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. I think you could just rain points. This is a huge, start every Lions player you got in fantasy kind of week. The Commanders, last year they went all the way to the NFC Championship. We had no reason to doubt that they would be, so struggle-filled the whole season, just adversity after adversity. You had Terry McLaurin holding out. Now he's hurt. You're on your 7th round rookie running back right now. You're running the committee. You got your franchise QB hurt. This is tough, man. And the Lions, they have just too many weapons right now. Marshawn Lattimore also being out for the season. Amon-Ra is going to have an absolute day. I could see him getting 100 right now. But Jared Goff, he wants to continue to pass the ball. We saw a huge play to Sam Laporta last week. I don't think there's any reason we don't see Sam Laporta again. So I really like him, this week if you're, deciding to start him or not. I know he's been struggling in fantasy, but take him.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. All right. Let's keep this moving. Sunday Night Football. Pittsburgh Steelers making their way to LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers favoring this by -2.5 with an over-under here of 44.5. And the Chargers are going to be without Joe Alt now for the rest of the season. They already are without Rashawn Slater. They made a trade for Trevor Penning from the Saints.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of those things where now with both of your tackles out for the season and both of them being all Pro Bowl caliber tackles, and I think both honestly have that potential to get that gold jacket one day. I just think the season might be a little bit on wraps. Let's see what Harbaugh can cook up, but I'm honestly looking at this team, and the Steelers just got great. They just played so well defensively last week. I think they're really going to get all up in Herbert's face, man. I'm locking in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers still slinging it at 41. I got to start taking ayahuasca.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, no, I mean, he's loving everybody. We were talking about Roman Wilson breaking out a couple weeks ago. DK Metcalf continues to go off. Jalen Warren is getting involved, but still doesn't. I would love to see Jalen Warren really get that run scheme going and, start to have those breakout games, especially in the receiving game. But Calvin Austin, I mean, the list goes on and on with these offensive weapons for the Steelers, and I'm really loving what they're doing because they know where they are in the division. They know that, the Ravens have an easy schedule, that Cincinnati has an easy schedule, and they need to continue to pile wins. I think taking on a team with a lack of offensive line versus TJ Watt is always a bad idea. So I'm going to take the Steelers on the road. So if I had 3 dogs this week, I'm taking the Pats, and then I'm taking Jacksonville, and I'm taking the Steelers and riding with those.
That's not bad. Let's get into the best game of the week, in my opinion. Monday Night Football, Philadelphia Eagles making their way to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Packers for this one, -2.5, over under here at 45.5. Now, Micah Parsons did not register a single pressure against the Panthers. It was the first time in his career he had 16 pass rushing attempts. It's absolutely insane. Couldn't believe that. Was just bottled up. But again, we said a little bit ago, it seems like the Packers play to whoever their team is. If they're a really great team, they play really great. If they're not so great, they play not so great. Cleveland and Carolina being the examples. So what are your thoughts going into this one? Eagles, are they going to get the win, or are they going to? Which Packers team are they going to get?
Yeah, man. I mean, the Packers are favored. They're at home in prime time right now. I'm hoping that they can bring us the Packers that we've seen just dominate against good teams this year. But you never know, man. The Eagles, they have a pass rush of their own. I just would love to see what Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary can kind of continue to do with Jalen Hurts this week, because he's going to be active. They're going to have to shut down Saquon. We got another great running back matchup in here. We kind of start the week with it and end the week with it with the Germany game. But now you got Saquon, Josh Jacobs. I mean, I do think maybe, I just see Josh Jacobs getting more yards in this game because the Philadelphia Eagles are working on their passing game right now, and the Packers, they have had a great pass rush. So I think the ball is going to be in Hurts' hands a lot. I think it's going to be on this Packers defense, and I think they're top 5 when they play a team like this. Christian Watson, he's got to step up now that Tucker Kraft has his ACL. We got Christian Watson recovering from the ACL. So let's see what we get, because he made some big plays last week, and then he made some Christian Watson-esque plays.
Yeah, I'm looking at this game, and I think it's just like if you have any Eagles players, if you have any Packers players, you're starting them on this Monday Night Football. I'm hitting the over on the 45.5 for sure. I feel like you can comfortably take like 50 yards for A.J. Brown, 50 yards for Devonta Smith. I feel like it's going to be just one of those games where everybody kind of goes off. The big question is going to be no Tucker Kraft now, out for the year with a torn ACL. What's going to happen with the Packers team, because he's really been their true wide receiver one and keeping the ball moving in very key moments of the game. I'm going to lock in the Eagles on this one. I do agree with you. I think that Micah Parsons is really familiar with this Eagles team. He's going to know some stuff. He's going to help out his Packers guys, and he's going to really cause a ruckus nonstop and just be a problem. But I do ultimately think that this Eagles team is a little bit better, a little bit more clean than what we've seen from the Packers this season at times, and they're kind of finding their stride offensively at the right time. I am curious to see what happens with A.J. Brown as the season continues, especially into the offseason, what's going to go on with that. But for now, he's in. The trade deadline didn't happen, so clearly they are built for the Super Bowl, and they're clearly keeping him in. There's a reason they got Jalen Phillips and Michael Carter in trade, so they're trying to get ready to win another Super Bowl with Howie Roseman. But we'll see as the season continues, because a lot can happen. We saw the Eagles were like 10-1, and then they finished 10-6 or 11-5, whatever it was. So anything can happen when it comes to the NFL. That's all the time that we have. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you guys for checking this out. Week 10, crazy stuff. We're in double digits now. We got 8 weeks. We are past the halfway mark. Thanks for checking us out all season. We got more coming at you. Just Saying Football on YouTube, Spotify. Get us in your ears. Just Saying Football on Discord for all of our picks. And Just Saying with no GWJS on Instagram. Follow us there. Get all of our updates. Thank you guys for checking us out.
Enjoy.